There's more powertrain stuff. We've got the transmissions, the 8-speed and the 10-speed. The 8-speed seems to be more problematic, just failures in general. The 10-speed also has its own problems. They are trying to figure out how to make it more reliable.
One bad truck can erase decades of trust. These weren't just slow sellers or minor missteps. They were trucks that stranded owners, drained wallets, and turned loyal buyers into lifelong skeptics. Recalls piled up. Reliability stories spread faster than ads, and in some cases, the damage never fully healed. These are 7 trucks that didn't just fail. They changed how entire brands are viewed forever. Number 7. Nissan Titan, second generation. When Nissan launched the second-generation Titan, this truck was supposed to be a statement. It wasn't just an update. It was Nissan's chance to prove it could finally stand shoulder to shoulder with America's full-size truck heavyweights. Bigger engines, bold styling, and aggressive marketing all pointed to one goal: legitimacy. But instead of changing minds, the Titan ended up reinforcing doubts that still follow the brand today. On paper, the Titan looked competitive. A powerful V8, solid towing numbers, and a longer warranty than most rivals suggested confidence. Nissan clearly believed that offering peace of mind would compensate for its lack of truck heritage. The problem was that owners quickly learned warranties don't prevent problems. They just confirm that the manufacturer expects them. Reliability complaints started surfacing early. Transmission issues, electrical glitches, and inconsistent build quality became common discussion points among owners. For a truck buyer, especially one who values long-term dependability, that's a deal-breaker. Trucks aren't weekend toys for most people. They're daily workhorses, road trip machines, and long-term investments. The Titan didn't inspire confidence in any of those roles. Fuel economy was another sore spot. The Titan struggled to justify its thirst, especially when competitors were offering similar power with better efficiency and smoother drivetrains. When buyers started comparing real-world ownership costs, the Titan almost always came up short. Resale values reflected that reality, dropping faster than expected and further damaging trust. But perhaps the biggest blow was perception. The second-generation Titan didn't fail loudly. It failed quietly. And in the truck world, quiet failure is deadly. Instead of sparking debates or passionate defense from owners, the Titan simply faded from serious consideration. That's worse than controversy. It tells buyers the product never truly mattered. For Nissan, the Titan became proof that competing in the full-size truck market requires more than specs and incentives. It requires decades of earned trust. When the Titan fell short, it didn't just hurt one model. It reminded buyers why they hesitated to trust Nissan trucks in the first place. This wasn't a total disaster, but it was a missed opportunity that Nissan has never fully recovered from in the truck segment. Number 6. Chevrolet Colorado, 2015 to 2016 models. When Chevrolet brought back the Colorado, expectations were sky-high. Buyers wanted a mid-size truck that felt modern, manageable, and dependable. Something easier to live with than a full-size pickup, but still tough enough to justify the badge. Early reviews were optimistic, and sales reflected that optimism. But it didn't take long for reality to catch up. The biggest issue wasn't one catastrophic failure, it was consistency. Owners began reporting transmission problems that ranged from rough shifting to outright hesitation and shuddering. For a truck meant to feel refined and easy to drive, this was a major red flag. Some drivers described the transmission as confused, constantly hunting for gears, especially at highway speeds. Software updates helped some owners, but many found the fixes temporary or incomplete. Electrical issues added to the frustration. Infotainment glitches, sensor failures, warning lights appearing without explanation. These weren't problems people expected from a brand-new truck. The Colorado was supposed to represent Chevrolet's modern engineering. Instead, it reminded buyers of the kind of quality control issues they hoped were long gone. What made matters worse was how widespread these complaints became. This wasn't a handful of unlucky owners. Forums, dealerships, and service departments all began seeing the same patterns. For older buyers who value predictability and long-term reliability, repeated dealer visits are unacceptable. A truck shouldn't feel like a rolling software experiment. Resale value took a hit quickly. Once word spread, used buyers became cautious, and trade-in values reflected that hesitation. This stung especially hard because mid-sized trucks are often bought with the expectation of strong resale. When that promise vanished, trust went with it. But the real damage went beyond the Colorado itself. For many buyers, this truck wasn't judged in isolation. It raised questions about GM's broader approach to modern powertrains and electronics. If a simpler mid-size truck struggled with basic reliability, what did that say about more complex models? The Colorado didn't destroy Chevrolet overnight, but it chipped away at something far more valuable: confidence. It made buyers second-guess the idea that newer is better. And in the truck world, doubt spreads fast. For a model meant to reintroduce Chevrolet as a mid-size leader, that lingering doubt was a costly price to pay. Number 5. Ford Ranger, late 1990s, early 2000s. At one point, the Ford Ranger was everywhere. It was affordable, practical, and trusted by people who wanted a truck without the size or cost of a full-size pickup. For years, it built Ford a reputation for making compact trucks that simply worked. That's why what happened next hurt so much more. As the years went on, quality began to slide. What had once been a dependable, no-nonsense truck slowly turned into a source of frustration. One of the most damaging issues was safety. Crash test results from later models raised serious concerns, especially when compared to newer competitors. For a truck often used as a daily driver or family utility vehicle, that was a gut punch to buyer confidence. Reliability problems followed. Transmission failures, engine issues, suspension wear, and electrical gremlins became far more common than owners expected. These weren't high-mileage, worn-out trucks. Many issues appeared well before buyers felt they should. For longtime Ranger loyalists, the experience felt like betrayal. This was a truck they trusted, and suddenly, that trust was gone. Ford's response didn't help. Updates were slow, redesigns were delayed, and the Ranger began to feel neglected. While competitors were improving safety, comfort, and refinement, the Ranger seemed stuck in the past, aging without the durability that once made its outdated design forgivable. Resale values suffered as a result. Used buyers became wary, especially as safety concerns became more widely known. The Ranger went from being a smart, economical choice to a compromise buyers justified instead of celebrated. The real damage, though, was to Ford's compact truck credibility. When the Ranger finally disappeared from the U.S. market, it didn't feel like a strategic pause. It felt like surrender. For years afterward, buyers remembered why the Ranger faded away, not why it once dominated. This wasn't just the decline of a model. It was the slow erosion of trust in a nameplate that once represented everything a small truck should be. Number 4. Dodge Dakota, Final Generations. The Dodge Dakota occupies a strange place in truck history. It was supposed to be the perfect middle ground, not too big, not too small. For years, it gave buyers a reason to choose Dodge over more established rivals. But by its final generations, the Dakota became a textbook example of how confusion and inconsistency can quietly destroy a brand's credibility. The biggest problem was identity. Dodge couldn't decide what the Dakota was meant to be. It grew larger and heavier, yet never delivered the refinement or capability buyers expected from its size. At the same time, it lost the simplicity and efficiency that once made it appealing as a mid-size truck. Buyers who wanted a compact felt it was bloated. Buyers who wanted a full size felt it was compromised. That left the Dakota stranded with no clear audience. Reliability issues sealed its fate. Engine problems, transmission failures, front suspension wear, and electrical faults appeared far too often. Owners complained that the truck felt tired long before it should. For a vehicle meant to handle daily use and occasional heavy work, constant repairs were unacceptable. The cost of ownership quickly overshadowed any initial purchase savings. Interior quality made matters worse. Cheap materials, premature wear, and outdated design gave the Dakota an unfinished feel. While competitors were improving comfort and usability, the Dakota felt stuck several steps behind. For buyers who planned to keep their trucks long-term, that mattered. What truly damaged Dodge's reputation was how familiar all this felt. The Dakota reinforced an existing belief that Dodge trucks were risky bets when it came to durability. Instead of breaking that narrative, the Dakota strengthened it. Even loyal Dodge buyers began looking elsewhere. When the Dakota was finally discontinued, there was little outrage. That silence spoke volumes. The truck didn't go out as a legend. It faded as a disappointment. And in doing so, it helped cement the idea that Dodge struggled to build trucks buyers could trust beyond the warranty period. That reputational damage lingered long after the Dakota itself was gone. Number 3. Chevrolet Silverado 1500, 2014 to 2018 models. The Chevrolet Silverado 1500 should have been untouchable. This was GM's backbone, its most important product, built on decades of loyalty and trust. When something goes wrong here, the consequences ripple far beyond a single model year. Unfortunately, the 2014 to 2018 Silverado did exactly that. One of the most damaging issues was the transmission. Shuddering, hard shifts, hesitation, and premature failures became common complaints. Many owners described a truck that never quite felt settled, especially at highway speeds or under light throttle. For a vehicle meant to feel confident and effortless, that instability was deeply unsettling. Then came engine concerns. GM's active fuel management system, designed to improve efficiency, ended up becoming a reliability nightmare for some owners. Lifters failed, engines ticked, and in worst cases, complete engine replacements were required. These weren't rare edge cases. They were expensive problems that showed up repeatedly, often outside the warranty window. What made the situation worse was how long it dragged on. Fixes came slowly, and for many owners, they didn't fully resolve the issues. Lawsuits followed, forums filled with stories of repeat dealer visits and unresolved complaints. Trust began to erode, not just in the Silverado, but in GM's engineering decisions as a whole. Resale values suffered as buyers became more cautious. Used truck shoppers started asking very specific questions about model years, powertrains, and maintenance history. That kind of skepticism is dangerous for a brand built on broad, unquestioned confidence. The Silverado didn't collapse in sales, but the damage was subtle and long-lasting. Buyers became wary. Loyalty became conditional. People who once bought a Silverado without hesitation started looking harder at alternatives. For GM, this was a warning shot. When your most trusted truck begins to feel like a gamble, the brand pays a price that no advertising campaign can erase. Number 2. Ford F-Series, 2011 to 2016 Fallout era. The Ford F-Series has long been the gold standard of American trucks. Decades of dominance built a reputation that seemed untouchable. That's why the problems of the early to mid-2000s hit so hard. When issues emerged, they didn't just affect individual owners. They shook confidence in an entire legacy. One of the most controversial decisions was Ford's aggressive push toward new powertrain technology. Early EcoBoost engines promised strong performance and better efficiency, but many owners experienced turbo failures, timing chain problems, carbon buildup, and expensive repairs once warranties expired. While not every truck failed, the unpredictability alone was enough to make buyers uneasy. Transmission concerns compounded the problem. Shifting issues, rough engagement, and costly repairs became familiar stories. Owners who expected the bulletproof reliability associated with the F-Series instead found themselves budgeting for major repairs far earlier than planned. What truly damaged Ford's reputation wasn't just the mechanical issues. It was the perception that loyal buyers were being used as test subjects. Longtime owners felt the brand prioritized innovation over durability. For a truck buyer who values dependability above all else, that trade-off felt unacceptable. The timing couldn't have been worse. Competitors were improving rapidly, offering smoother drivetrains and simpler, more proven setups. As trust wavered, buyers who had owned nothing but F-Series trucks for decades began quietly switching brands. Ford eventually corrected many of these issues, but the damage had already spread. Resale values softened for certain years. Buyers became selective, carefully avoiding specific configurations. That level of caution was new and telling. The F-Series survived, but its invincibility didn't. Once buyers realize even the market leader can stumble, loyalty becomes harder to guarantee. Number 1. Dodge Ram 1500. Early mid-2000s. Few trucks have done more long-term damage to a brand's reputation than the early mid-2000s Dodge Ram 1500. This was a truck that looked bold, aggressive, and powerful. Yet underneath that styling was a reliability record that haunted Dodge for years. Even today, the echoes of that era still shape how buyers view the brand. The problems were widespread and difficult to ignore. Transmission failures were among the most notorious, often appearing well before owners expected major repairs. Automatic gearboxes failed suddenly, sometimes without warning, leaving owners stranded. For a full-size truck marketed as tough and dependable, this was devastating. Engine-related issues added to the frustration. Cooling problems, oil sludge buildup in certain engines, and premature wear became common complaints. Electrical issues, ranging from failing dashboards to unpredictable warning lights, only deepened the sense that these trucks were unreliable at their core. Interior quality didn't help. Cheap materials wore quickly, dashboards cracked, and components aged poorly. While competitors were improving durability and comfort, the Ram felt disposable by comparison. Owners who planned to keep their trucks long-term were often disappointed. What truly sealed the Ram's reputation was how consistent the complaints were. These weren't isolated failures. They formed a pattern that spread through word of mouth, repair shops, and used car lots. Over time, Dodge reliability became a cautionary phrase rather than a selling point. Resale values reflected that stigma. Buyers avoided older Rams unless the price was deeply discounted. That lingering distrust didn't vanish when newer models arrived. It followed the brand, forcing Dodge to spend years rebuilding confidence. The early 2000s Ram didn't just fail owners. It reset expectations in the worst way possible. And that's why it earns the top spot on this list. Truck brands aren't built overnight, and they don't collapse overnight either. Reputation is earned slowly, through years of dependable ownership, and it can be damaged just as slowly by repeated disappointments. Every truck on this list didn't fail in isolation. Each one planted doubt, spread frustration, and forced buyers to question names they once trusted without hesitation. What makes these stories matter is that the consequences lasted far longer than the model years themselves. Resale values suffered, loyalty cracked, and in many cases, buyers carried those experiences into every future purchase decision. That's why truck history isn't just about horsepower or towing numbers. It's about whether people believe a vehicle will still be standing years down the road. Some brands learned hard lessons and worked their way back. Others are still fighting old perceptions they never fully erased. Because once trust is lost, it doesn't return easily. And in the truck world, reputation isn't marketing, it's memory. That's what makes these trucks unforgettable, and why their impact still matters today.